Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live. Here we are on Tuesday, 2 days after Easter, and we have here again I feel like Rachel Maddow, I have a good show for you this morning. So there are a lot of ideas bubbling around, and so I hope there's a central idea in this talk that holds it all together, and we don't go rambling off into inconsistency. And the idea that that kind of held me together this morning was the center, the importance of a center, and what happens when the center can't hold. So let's take a look at that, and we'll start with Blackstone. That's where I live. I came here in 1981, and I had always lived with my suitcase, my bags packed. I grew up in a military family, so we moved. I changed schools every 2 years. So I really had no center grounded in the earth or a community. When I met my wife, to-be, she lived in Blackstone, she grew up here, I was amazed, astonished that she still knew people, kids, her kindergarten friends, that these friends were going through life together, like on a cruise ship, and the town, and all the family connections and the memories and the shared life of growing up in Blackstone, this shared experience that was grounded in buildings and streets and houses that rarely changed. You would look at a house here, and people who lived here could name the families that lived in that house. You can't do that in urban areas, you see. And the downtown Blackstone is the same as it was in 1900. You can't do that in urban areas. So there is a stability or a center to rural, small towns. And the families here go all the way back to the founding families that came here with land grants from England. Blacks and whites together all have this interrelationship of family. So there is a center, a physical center here that holds people in place and gives them a reference to who they are and what their purpose is and where they came from, you see. So this gives meaning. The center gives meaning. The center integrates. I notice, because I live here, you know, as both an outsider and an insider. So I've been here since '81, yet I still am an outsider in the sense that I can never grow up here, you see. And people that come, who move here, always feel like they're kind of like an alien because there's no way to get the roots that people who grew up here have and the childhood memories and all of that. But anyway, I just want to stress the importance, and we can all get that feeling of the importance of a physical center that holds your life together. And I notice people here that basically their primary interest, whether they've been here or they're new immigrants, is making people connections. So everybody's interested in, well, what is so-and-so doing now? And oh, they married such and such, and did you know that this happened and that? And you can just watch the database being updated. So everybody has a database that they want to update, and that's the primary interest, is keeping it updated. It's kind of like your computer. You know, it's time to update. So you meet somebody from this area, people who come from this area, it's time to update, and everybody just like the data's up in the iCloud, and we just download the new data and bring it up to date, and then you can go along satisfied, you know, that you're relevant. Your software is updated. Isn't that funny? So anyway, let's move on. And what's happening today? See, the world is in flux today, and it creates a great deal of anxiety and, well, anxiety primarily, because anxiety is kind of like a dread or a fear of something unknown is going to be happening, and we don't know exactly what it is. Dread is the dread is very evident today. Dread is the fear of the something unknown. There's no center in dread. Dread is the fear of loss of center. I'm going to lose everything, and then where will I be? You see, I'll lose my reference. I'll lose whatever it is that holds me together, this dread. Just leaving your hometown, there's dread. So let's, and I was thinking about, well, so this old reality, which is long gone now, unless you live in a place like Blackstone, you still maintain it and restore it. But this grounded in something physical is no longer, is shifting. And today, whereas I was looking at today, what our hometown today is Facebook, or it's electronic, and in the store, instead of having, see, the migration has gone from people used to shop at Blackstone because Blackstone was self-containing. So then you went to the big department stores. It was like going to church. So and then that morphed into malls. So malls became like a little town. You recreated the little town of Blackstone as a mall. You go to the mall, and there would be your anchors, Penny's, Sears, and then you would have all your little shops in the middle, and you would have your little town square and entertainment. Malls were a little mini town, you see, to recreate the little small town that everybody had lost when they moved to the city. So everybody moves to the city, and the small towns they grew up with have to be replaced. Well, now I just read today that 89,000 jobs are being lost this year because the malls are falling up. The malls are losing. Nobody shops in a mall. You go to a mall, and all the little shops are empty. And then the big anchors are changing and everything. Where is everybody going? Well, if I want to buy something today, I go to the big mall, the big center. It's like this is an electronic department store that has everything. So you go to Amazon, click, click, 2 days it's here, or overnight. So everything, all of these big electronic stores are all fighting to become the one that has no second, and Amazon seems to be winning. So you can find everything you want in the big Amazon in the sky. And if you want relationship, well, you go to Facebook. So these two electronic communities have recreated together, just as an example. I know there are others out there, but just as an example of the biggest ones, these have created an electronic replication of Blackstone. In Blackstone, you could go to the store and buy something, and you could talk to friends and update your database. So here, you can go to the Amazon to buy whatever you want, and you can click, and they're all interrelated, and you can go to Facebook and update your data on your friends, and all your friends are global now. So there's no boundary. You see, in other words, in Blackstone you had a boundary. There was a line around the town, and the next town was Crewe. It was 10 miles away. And in the 30s, I remember reading in the newspapers, the personals, and it would say, such and such family motored to Crewe this weekend. So that was a bit of news if you drove 10 miles to Crewe. Such and such family motored to Crewe. 10 miles, a little town 10 miles away. So, so this world here has no boundaries. You know, Facebook, I have friends in India, England, Australia. I have global friends. And Amazon, I mean, you can order from Amazon wherever you are. There's no boundaries here. So there's a sense of, and form means the boundary. If you have a form, you have a boundary. This is a form, and there's a boundary. This is an eraser, a marker, and it's not my hand. So there's a boundary that defines this marker. So, but here we're moving into a formless world. There's no boundaries. And this is, I hate to, well, this is a spiritual movement in a material way. Zen, if you want to describe Zen, and by Zen I just use that, if I want to describe a digital store, I'll say Amazon. If I want to describe a non-dual tradition for transcendence, I will just use Zen. But there are others, non-dual traditions where you transcend form and touch the formless. You see, so this whole spiritual movement that came from the East, the yoga and Buddhism, these are called non-dual, and non-dual means formless. Dual means there's this and that. Dual means two. Dual means form. If you have one form, you've got duality, because now you've got other forms, or you've got the forms that this is not. So this, to have this form, means there are other forms that it is not. If you took away, the formless means no boundaries. So what does the formless? There's no center in the formless. Form gives us a center. So Blackstone was a form that gives the people who lived here a center, like the hub of a wheel. So the hub is formless, right? And the spokes are form. So the formless is the center of the wheel, and it's the formless that makes the wheel turn. You see, the axis, but there's no form in the axis. It's the wheel. It's like the cup. I don't have one here. The inside of the cup makes the cup work, because the emptiness holds the soup. If the cup was all outside, it would be a solid block. It's the emptiness that makes the cup work. So it's the emptiness that makes the formless, the form, work. But we're getting into a kind of like a formless form. So Facebook is a formless form. I mean, it's a form because it exists in the computer, but it has no form in that if you unplug the computer, there's no Facebook. And this is a great anxiety here. There's an anxiety at the base of these new centers that hold everybody together, because if the power goes off, they disappear. Blackstone won't disappear if the lights go out. But if your lights go out here, that which holds us together disappears. And that's why we have such anxiety if we lose power to the internet, because we're becoming referenced. Our center is shifting to these digital internet centers where we find reference, you see. So this creates a lot of anxiety, because it's not based in the earth. It's not based in the body. It's not based in something that's real, you see. It's electronic. And our TV shows, we even, you know, people that, we even make TV shows our center. Our favorite show we look forward to. My show is on. I got my soaps. I got to watch the soaps. Or our particular news source becomes our center, and that kind of like holds us in place. But the TV shows, how long do they last? 7, 8, 9 years. and then they're gone, and now I have to find a new center. So we're always in search of a new center because the rug is being pulled out from under us from our old centers. So this, but Zen, for instance, why I say this is really a spiritual movement externally in form, as if it were a mirror reflection of what we are doing inside. The outside reflects the inside. And Zen, a best way to describe Zen would be if you have a guy with a crutch and he's blind, Zen kicks the crutch out from under him and turns him around. Now he is completely without center. So the spiritual path is the intentional removal of centers upon which we depend. So the spiritual path, for those few who walk it, and we're all walking it in a way, whether we like it or not, because life is going to pull out, is going to kick out whatever crutch you're depending upon. You depend on your mother, she's going to die. You depend on your father, he's going to die. You depend on your wife or husband. Whatever you depend on is going to die. You're going to lose it. This is the path of aging. The first half of life is going up the mountain, and that's creating stuff and building centers, and then the second half of life is losing it all. So we end up where we began. So this whole idea of life then actually will take away our centers, that which we believe is fixed and permanent, you see, will take it away. So the question then, why should I wait and just let everything be ripped from me? Why should I not, if this is what life is, why shouldn't I invite it? And the question is there a center that does not depend upon some form that's going to die? Is there a center that is portable and that gives me the ability to be at home wherever I am? This is a question that the spiritual seeker asks when they realize that all form, all centers, is going to be taken from you. You know, this is the question of death. When Buddha left the pleasure palace and walked into the world, he left his comfort zone, which protected him, Siddhartha, the Buddha-to-be. Siddhartha left his pleasure palace, his comfort. He left his center, where everything was provided and safe and permanent. And he walked into the world, and there was no center. He saw old age, sickness, and death. And these three companions, it is called, destroy your center. And they bring about the question, who am I if I have no center? Who am I if I have no palace to protect me? Who am I if I have no fixed belief or religion or form or person or hometown to protect? All can go. All can be destroyed. The plug can be pulled and they can all disappear. Just like my internet, Facebook, if I lose power, you see. So a fire could burn down Blackstone. Everything in 500 years from now, a billion years, the whole earth is gone. So you cannot invest yourself in form, we realize, particularly as we get older. We cannot even invest in the body, because that, as when we're young, we do, but then we start trying to keep it together as we get older, plastic surgery, whatever, trying to maintain our center that we've invested in, but it's going to. So we love to go to the beach and build a sandcastle and then watch the waves destroy it. That reminds us of what the principle of life is, that life is death and creation. So the whole movement of awakening, of the evolution of consciousness, is to realize that we cannot depend upon any fixed form, whether it's an idea, a belief, a religion, or a physical form like a town or a building or whatever, you see. All of these are impermanent, said the Buddha. All impermanent and change. So where is my center? Who am I? Is there a center within me that does not depend upon form? That is the spiritual question. Who am I? Is there a center? And the only way that we, and in Zen, and this tradition, this Buddhist tradition, or the transcendent tradition, is to discover that the center within is our true home and our freedom, and it is portable, and it is like the empty hole in a wheel that is formless. So, we'll stop there today and maybe pick this up and continue kicking this can down the road. I wrote down here that one of the anxiety of the political scene today in America is because the Republican Party has been a center that has held America together, because its strength was it was a strong center of principles and value, that you could depend on the center of the Republican Party, which was in ideas. This was a system of ideas and values that were believed to be permanent. And the reason Trump is causing so much anxiety is because the Republican Party has invested itself in Trump, and Trump has no fixed center. Trump is turning the Republican Party into a stump. Because there's no fixed center in Trump, he is ambiguous. One day it's this, one day it's that. The center is fixed, which means you're certain about it. The center means certainty, dependability, trust, you see. But if you invest your center, and this is not saying where Trump is good or bad, I'm just saying that the investment in Trump, instead of in the idea philosophy in which everyone that came into the Republican Party conformed to, you see. So the investment in Trump is investment in a personality, and the personality is not ideological, doesn't fit doesn't fit the form of the tree. So we don't know what the tree is, because the tree is consistently a tree. Trump is not consistently anything. That could be good or bad. So I just threw that in because, and this other thought here too, was that one way to fix your center is to have a strong enemy. So Obama became the enemy of the Republican Party and fixed the Republican center for 8 years. So the Republicans were fixed as a center 8 years by having that which they were not. In other words, so the Republicans say, I am who I am because I'm not Obama. That fixed it. Just a little side note, I hope I don't run too long. I just finished watching the PBS American Experience about the Great World War I. And what I didn't realize, and what was very fascinating, was that Wilson took the country to war by creating the ideal or idea that America should make the world safe for democracy, and that America would make the world safe for the world would be reorganized around an idea of America as the protector of democracy. So this was a revolutionary idea that was new, that transformed America into a spear army with a 2 million man army that went to crush the Kaiser. but they also created this new national sense of nationalism was fixed around the German. So the Kaiser became, the Hun became the great enemy. And it was unbelievable that so much anti-Germanism sprung up. I mean, the Alien Sedition Acts, and the Germans were hunted out and put in jail, and anybody that had an accent or anybody that spoke out against the president or the war was an enemy of the state. And this became a paranoia that created this sense of America through not being German. It was the same thing as the GOP saying we are the GOP because we're not Obama. And Trump is saying we're America because we're not an immigrant. You know, we're not aliens, we're not these enemies. So beware of the false center that is fixed because it is not the enemy. So the enemy must be created in order to create my center. And this really works. So if you can't find your center, just create an enemy that you can be not, and then you will be something. I will be something because I'm not that enemy. And the bigger the enemy, the bigger I get. So the only way to, but this is based on anxiety because there is no real center here. So the anxiety creates a need to make a bigger enemy. So I keep making the enemy bigger so I can be bigger, to remove the anxiety of not having a center. Because the center is based not in me, but here. You see that? I've made my center external to me in my enemy. Whatever that enemy can be, it's a black person, an immigrant, the Germans during the First World War, whatever the enemy, the communists, whatever the enemy, it's external to me. I have no center. And this creates a tremendous anxiety and fear that I don't exist. So the only way to feel I exist is to keep creating this enemy. The irony is if I eliminated the enemy, I wouldn't exist. We'll end with that thought. And I'll see you this evening at Martini Lunch.